Greetings and salutations in our distance. It is I, Wolfphototech, and here we are with another delightful video. This time, it's another TTRPG. This is actually, essentially, the king of TTRPGs in Germany. It's The Dark Eye, and I'm not going to try to pronounce its German name, as I only know basic German, and I could only know enough to ask about food, animals, and remember that German is divided in is gendered language, which is typical for most languages with the exception of English. But anyways, here is this absolutely delightful book from Ulysses International, or Ulysses North America. I think at a short point in time they might have been had help with Paizo publishing this, but this is a fairly nice book. It comes with 2 nice ribbons. MSRP's for $50, which is for a book that thick and with a binding that nice. Well, this has been a little knocked around a little bit. I'll go to this end. See, all thread bound. You open it up. By the way, this is the Dark Eye, the 5th edition Dark Eye. And this is not 5th edition as in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. It's the Dark Eye 5th edition. It doesn't use the Dungeons and Dragons engine. So that's important to note. Here's the credits page with a map of the continent. And which is weird, because this map actually has this weird negative effect where it makes the island itself look like ocean, like a gold ocean, and the water to actually appear as if it's like land. Weird, I do say, but alright. I just moved my chair. This book was printed in the EU back in 2016, by the way. It's really nice that they include that there. You have this big, beautiful table of contents. It's not loaded with a lot of artwork or anything like that. It's basically just, it makes a point of having chapters and having every single important thing listed out in the chapters itself. You have chapter 1, which is the introduction, chapter 2, core mechanics, chapter 3, hero creation, chapter 4, races, chapter 5, cultures, chapter 6, professions, chapter 7, advantages and disadvantages, chapter 7, skills, chapter 8, combat, chapter 9 is combat, chapter 10 is magic, chapter 11 is work of the gods, chapter 12 is detailed rules, chapter 13 is bestiary, chapter 14 is equipment, chapter 15 is game tips, and then you got the appendix. The introduction is just the standard, what is the Dark Eye? What is a TTRPG? What is the main setting? Throughout the entire book, it has exceedingly well done artwork. Some of the artwork, this is actually a drawing right here. However, the drawing is so well done, it actually creates the sense that it actually is a photo. There's a possibility that it might be a photo run through a filter to make it look like a drawing. You have tear out sections right here. It's not torn out, but I mean, like, it's little boxes that look like a torn out piece of paper for a little extra bits of information, special information. You have these boxes are often special sections on terminology and such. You have a nice, big, beautiful map of the world as it is. You have a nice chart on the gods, the demigods, and dragons. The high dragons, specifically. Important example of play or replay. Then chapter 2 is basics. You have usually a stripped piece of art right here on the side in each chapter. You got dice. and the general materials in which you need to play the game, basic terms and concepts that you need to understand, like checks, attributes, and so forth. There's actually a total of 8 attributes in this system. You have courage, sagacity, intuition, charisma, dexterity, agility, constitution, and strength. You have a very nice little chart right here for modifying your attributes, and various other fun, nice details here. There's typically a lot of little tables here and there. None of the tables are overly large. They don't make entire walls of tables. There are a few exceptions. Once we get to the advantages and disadvantages section of the book, we'll see more walls of tables, but the tables are still reasonable. You got some artwork spread throughout it of various deities, scenes, items, characters. Next page should be character creation or the hero creation. And it goes over the basics of how to make a character from step 1 to step 15. And yes, there's 15 steps in the system. It's very nice that they have a short list here of creating a hero right here. I'll show it. And then they replicate that out in more detail as you go through the next few pages. As little bits of advice, maximum attribute scores, a few little examples here and there spread out. How to allocate attributes and stuff like that, and speed this up a little bit. It explains the advantages and disadvantages. Now, advantages and disadvantages is this neat little thing. It's kind of like feats and anti-feats. The disadvantages take something away from your character. Like, your character might be colorblind, or they might be missing an arm, or they're afraid of the dark. And for such disadvantages, your character gains some points back that you can use to pay for more advantages. So it's a give and take system where you're allotted an X amount of points to pick your race, pick your class, and then you get to the point where, okay, I have this little pile of points left over after I picked up all the other stuff. What do I want? Oh, I want my character to have a natural talent for magic. So I will pick out a talent, pick out a few advantages that boost up my magic skills or capabilities. But then, I really want another one of these advantages to really round out my character and make them really good as a spellcaster. What do I want to take? Oh, I'll take bad luck, or I'll take color blindness, or clumsy. And with those disadvantages, you adjust your stats, and you add the points back in, and then you buy the other advantage you want to buy. And this is a nice little thing that allows for coming up with character concepts and then building in negatives into your character so you can buy other positives with your character. And there are exclusionary items, like certain advantages cannot be combined together. You cannot have excellent color vision and be colorblind at the same time. It doesn't work. You cannot be blind and have excellent color vision. You cannot be exceptionally fast but have no legs. It all makes sense. You have a few... These happen to be the occupations, and the occupations happen to be equivalent to classes. However, unlike Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, occupations don't have a leveling orientation to them. They more or less are a bag of tools and skills and techniques that your character can utilize, and you simply improve in those things as you play along in the game. It's very much in line with what Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, right back here, or say Call of Cthulhu or RuneQuest, where your character doesn't really level up, but they do get better because as they do things over time and they get better at doing those things. You got a chapter on races here. By the way, the various races, you got standard human, you got dwarf, elf, halfling. They got random rule tables for various hair colors and stuff like that. They have a nice variety here. If you can't quite decide what hair color your elf should be, you got a D20 table right here for hair color. Half-elves, dwarves. Let's see here. You got a section on cultures. And as I said, you can see that there's actually a good blend of artwork. And it breaks it up because if you have a slight attention deficit disorder or hyperactivity issues or something like that, if you just see walls and walls of text, page after page, you'll be reading along, and at some point you might sneeze or something or hear something, and then you're like, oh, where was I on this page? Because they oftentimes will put a piece of artwork here and put one of these torn page boxes in, or a little note, or highlight a thing, or mark a spot. It's actually not terribly hard to find where you left off last. So, each culture has their own set of languages and areas of knowledge that comes along with them. So you can pick like a human, and then you could be Merskin. And if you go with Merskin, you get Guthuri Merskin or Guthuri Merskin. You got script areas. You have special areas of knowledge you gain for that. You get common advantages and common disadvantages to choose from for those as well. They suggest what you would commonly get from being from that culture and so forth. And they do a fairly nice job of having a piece of artwork for every example as much as possible in the book. So you can at least get a good idea what a character from that culture will look like. It would have been nice if they had a biological male example and a biological female example for each culture. However, one piece of artwork for each one is fine enough as it is. Flip a few more pages. Skip. You have a lot of options here. I'm not joking. And then you have a few other fun stuff like profession packages and a few other things like that. You got Chapter 7, which is advantages and disadvantages. That's actually a pretty nice example right there. It gives you general rules on how to apply advantages and disadvantages to your character. And then it goes right off into listing various advantages and disadvantages for your character. As you can quite see, they do a nice job of sticking in little banners. However, I personally feel that the choice of a green tone banner is a poor choice. They probably should have gone with, say a blue tone, or, well, blue is not super good, but blue is better than green overall for most people. And they do happen to have a red one right here, which is the start of the disadvantages section. They got examples of bad habits. So if you want to choose like, oh, you have a bad habit. Okay, that's you get AP value -2 to your advantage points per bad habit. So every bad habit you pick up for your character, you get extra 2 points to use to buy advantages. So what you have here for examples for bad habits you can choose from when you pick this out. You can pick this multiple times. Bad table manners, barefoot, cleaning bug, crybaby, first, hypochondriac, late sleeper, left and right, Messy, my child, nail biter, nervous, sir, smoker, talks a mile a minute, talks to themselves, third person, we, and so forth. Left and right essentially is these characters often mix up their right and left, or right or left and right. So they go through multiple options for that. And they got chapter 8, which is skills, which is basically the skill system. What you roll for different things such as trades, climbing, feats of strength, and so forth. They have little tables there for levels of success and difficulty for each thing and how it's used, like plant lore, ropes, and so forth. This definitely will, if you're a Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 person, this game system will actually feel somewhat familiar yet different at the same time. It's a less level-oriented version or a less level-oriented TTRPG, but it focuses more on skills. If you are a fan of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, this might also be another alternate option to play in. You got like skills like body control, carousing, climbing, dancing, feats of strength, flying, Githurki, perception, pickpocket, riding, self-control, singing, stealth, swimming, and then you got social skills such as disguise, empathy, etiquette, fast talk, intimidation, persuasion, seduction, streetwise, willpower, nature skills, animal lore, fishing, orienting, plant lore, ropes, survival, tracking. And then you got knowledge skills, astronomy, gambling, geography, history, law, magical lore, math, mechanics, myth and legends, religion, sphere lore, warfare, and then you have crafting skills, alchemy, artistic ability, clockworking, commerce, driving, earth and craft, leatherworking, metalworking, music, lock picks, prepare food, sailing, treat disease, treat poison, treat soul, treat wounds, and woodworking. So you definitely have a lot of skills to choose from. My light actually is flushing out the text. So there you go. They come with basically rules here, prerequisites, and AP value. So if you want to like buy fisher, you want to be a fisherman. If you have enough points left over, it only costs you 3 adventure points. So you can pick up, if you have 3 adventure points, you can pick up a fisher skill. And you get rules here on how to be a fisherman. An experienced fisher is always more successful than an unskilled counterpart at catching fish. With this special ability, the hero is more successful when fishing. With a successful fishing check, you receive 1 additional QL of food. The GM must decide if there is a sufficient edible fish or other sea creatures in the chosen body of water you choose from. Prerequisites: fishing 4, stealth 4. So you need at least 4 points into fishing, as well as 4 points into stealth to get it. And then it continues on from there. We go a few more pages. We got chapter 9. Back up here to get to the beginning of chapter 9. Because you know it's really easy to. Then you, as I said before, each chapter has a little banner, piece of art here, as well as a piece of art across the top. Chapter 9 is combat. It starts at 225. And it just walks you through how combat operates in the system, different ranges on your weaponry, and so forth. How to parry, how to dodge, various characteristics of weapons such as daggers. For example, if you are using a impact weapon, this category describes everything that is wielded with one hand, from a simple club to a well-crafted raven's beak, whether blunt or sporting an axe blade. Primary attribute is strength. Improvement cost C. And there will be a table here for improvement costs on that weapon skill. We got rules on encumbrance, combat in water, and many more. Ranged combat, horseback combat, and a lot more. Various other things tied in, and I'll just skip a few pages. And then you got magic, and I jumped right into magic. It doesn't take long to get from the combat section into magic up here. I keep forgetting that. Yeah, I just like skipped right into it. There's the magic chapter which starts at 251. And then, as I said before, as you can see, they don't have just endless walls of text. There will be usually a few pieces tossed in. And I'll skip a few pages. And I'll actually jump past magic. And magic is actually a fairly long chapter, by the way. Because, you know, it's magic. And actually, one of the few cases where you have a tall table in 2 pages. The works of the gods, which is all about religion and the mechanics between characters interacting with religion and so forth. It's more for the religious characters, but it always helps to have a bit of knowledge into that everything else. It contains information on ceremonies and stuff like that. There's a chapter 12 on detailed rules, which goes a bit into more in depth into other things, such as adventuring skills and stuff like that. You know, navigating through terrain, interactions, and so forth. Crafting, poisons, damaging buildings and structures, the experience system, and how you operate through that. And then I'll show you the bestiary. A quick little bit of the bestiary. I'll show you a few creatures here, such as dog, horse, cat, and toad. There's dog. And then you have horse here, right next to dog. And you got a little table down at the bottom for the animal. And then you have cat and toad. And then we go into equipment. You have all kinds of fun stuff, such as your basic packages for your characters, like cutlery, flint and steel, hatchets, and so forth. Your different types of weapons. Most people will be familiar with a lot of weapons in this system from Dungeons and Dragons. And it's all going to be based around D6s for the most part, with the exception of a few extra plus-minus points. Like a barbarian sword will be a D6 plus 5 right off the bat. But there's also a factor of weight and a few other things worked in here. There's typically artwork for all the weapons in the system. So if you are not entirely sure what a thing looks like, there is some artwork there for you to see. And interestingly enough, you've got even an auto-loading crossbow with your Ritter crossbow. We have various potions, tonics, and magical items, and alchemy items, as well as books, musical instruments. And then you have a nice little section on tips for game mastering the system, and much more. Previously, I've also shown off the Game Master screen and the Tavern book for this system on this channel. You happen to, by the way, you have this section with all the appendixes, which has a nice little checklist for optional rules, so you can select what rules you want to use in your game if you want to use them. You got a list of common abbreviations for the entire system, like adventuring points, AP, agility, AGI, arcane energy points, AE, and so forth. So if you're ever paging through the book and you're not entirely sure what a KP stands for, it's karma points, and LP is life points. You got various conditions here, such as confusion, fear, pain, paralysis, stupor, rapture, and many others. You got, yet again, the table for all the skills and the checks that are tied into each skill. And as you can see, that they're also all fairly colorful, and they jump out at you quite easily. Got a handy dandy index, so if you are not entirely sure where something is in the book, if you don't quite figure out where it is based on the table of contents in the front, you can always go to the index in the very back and check it out from there. The character sheet are multiple here. First and foremost, the first sheet here is the personal sheet, or personal data, which contains all the basic stuff you want for your character. You know, basic stats, disadvantages, advantages, general special abilities, and so forth. And then on the next page is your game states, which is basically all your skills. Third one is combat skills. Fourth one is equipment. Fifth one is spells and rituals. And the sixth one is languages and other special proficiencies and abilities. If your character happens to know like 20 languages or something like that, or they have various other modifying effects such as blessings, you've been blessed by a goddess or something like that, there you have a spot for that. It has about like 6 sheets of character pages. A lot of people today, I do have to say, are getting to the point of wanting to go back to like classic. Wanting to go back to like something like classic D&D, or say like Star Frontiers, where you have a TTRPG which has only, say, 1 character sheet or 2 character sheets. People are tending to shift away from having a system that has 7, 8, 9, 10 character sheets each that you need for them. This system approximately has a situation where you're going to need like at maximum 9 sheets of paper to play it. However, if you're not a spellcaster or you're not a martial oriented character, you can probably parse that down to 7 sheets. You can drop off the languages sheet and everything else. Keep in mind that each character sheet for the system, as you can see, has many options and a really long option list. So as I said before, you can have a character who could learn 20 languages. You can have a character who knows 100 spells. You can have a character that can level up in like 30 or 40 skills. You can have a character that can be pretty well rounded in a broad range of senses, given time that you have opportunity to level your character up. If there's anyone who is from Germany, or anyone who has played the Dark Eye 5th edition, feel free to dump it in the comments below your experiences. I personally find that this book is a very well written book from what I've read. It is very well organized. There are multiple ways to finding what you need in this book. And it has numerous player and game master aids spread throughout the book, just in the right chapters for when you need it. So this is a strong contender for a 4-star or TTRPG. The only thing I could think of that is of a negative is that it's pushing just over 400 pages of core rulebook. If this was just a player's book, and they could probably have parsed it down to 300 pages or 250. As a book gets thicker and thicker and thicker, people tend to react to the thickness of a book as in it's being a exceedingly complicated system. However, from what I have read of this system, it is actually not exceedingly complicated. It's actually very intuitive and it flows really nicely overall. It is a skill-oriented system, not a level-oriented system, but it also is a skill class system. So there you go. You don't got very many skill class systems. You got stuff like Cyberpunk and Shadowrun, which are quasi skill classes. They're skill systems with a splash of class in them. Where this system is just a little more class, but still somewhat heavy toward not heavy skills, but just a little more in the skill territory. So there you go. As I said before, it MSRPs for $50. However, it might actually be quite a bit more expensive now. The book is actually exceedingly well put together construction-wise, so it's going to hold you up for a long time unless you're really abusive with your books. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a delightful day, a nice night, a wonderful weekend, magnificent month, and see you next time. Ciao.